Okay, I want to start reading to you from a book, very old, very old. This is over 100 years old. It's actually a series of books. I kept one of the books to make videos. The rest I gave to a priest at my church. And the copyright is 1916. And there's many volumes. This volume is called the Precepts series. This is Precepts, First Commandment. So I thought some of the chapters were really interesting, and I thought you'd enjoy them. So let's read from one. This is called the Precept of Faith. And this was written by a man named RODERICK MacEACHEN. Yes, RODERICK MacEACHEN. This everything I'm going to read now and then later on in this little series here. It's called the Moral Series, and the Precepts. It says Moral Series, Precept Series. I think it's a sub-topic. But anyway, this is the Precept of Faith. Faith, hope, and charity are called the three theological virtues. They are divine virtues. They come from God. We are bound by precept to practice these three holy virtues. Now, by the way, a precept is like an authority, an authoritative thing that we're supposed to do, something that we're called to do. Faith may be viewed either as an act or a habit. It is called actual or habitual faith. Actual faith is an act of the intellect by which we accept the truth of God's teachings. Habitual faith is a divine virtue infused in us by God. It is a supernatural habit. It leads our mind to give full assent to the truths revealed by God. Habitual faith is permanent. Actual faith is a passing action. Habitual faith exists even in the soul of the newly baptized infant. Faith must extend to all the truths revealed by God. It must embrace divine revelation in its entirety. Yet primarily, faith reveals to God and His divine perfections. Faith refers to God and His divine perfections. We must first believe in God. Then we must accept His divine teachings. Faith rests upon the authority of God. Human knowledge rests upon human authority. Opinion rests upon personal ideas. Conviction rests upon certain human conclusions that we have formed. Hence, the motive for faith is God Himself. The assurance of faith is divine truth. The certainty of faith is God's own infallibility, meaning He can't make a mistake. He who denies one article of revelation rejects the authority of God. To believe the truths of revelation is to profess faith in the infallible authority of God. There are certain truths which we must know before we can have actual faith. These are called preambles of faith. Reason must accept them. Otherwise, it would be impossible to elicit an act of faith. We must know that God exists. We must know that God is truth. We must know that God cannot be deceived. We must know that God cannot err, meaning make a mistake. For faith rests upon the authority of God. Reason tells us that God is truth. He would not be God if His intellect would err. To be God, He must be infinitely truthful. He must be infallible in all His judgments. There are two truths that must be known before we can elicit an act of faith. We must know that God has revealed His truth to man. We must know that God is infallible. Yet faith does not necessarily follow the knowledge of these two truths. There are certain facts that are called motives of credibility. Such are miracles, prophecies, the spread of the church, the lives of the saints, the constancy of the martyrs. These are motives for believing the fact of divine revelation. Faith does not proceed from reason. It is merely preceded by reason. It rests upon reason as a basis. None but a rational creature can believe. Yet faith is an act of the intellect and the will. It is the will guided by God's grace that commands the intellect to accept the truth. Reason examines the motives for believing. The evidence that reason finds tells us that God has revealed his truth. It tells us that we can put our whole trust in God's holy word. The revealed truth comes to us through the Catholic Church. She is the infallible teacher of God's truth. Hence, by faith, we believe all the teachings of the Church. This is Catholic faith. It is belief in the revealed truth transmitted to us by the authority of the Church. The Church has her authority from God. It is God's own authority. God speaks to us through the Church. It is for this reason that God has endowed the Church with infallibility. Habitual faith may be lively or dead. It is lively when it works through charity. Faith is lively in the man who strives to do the will of God. It is dead in the sinner. He has no love of God in his heart. Actual faith may be internal or external. Internal faith is the assent of God in the mind. External faith is this assent expressed by words, deeds, or other signs. Actual faith may be explicit or implicit. It is explicit when the believer knows that this particular truth is revealed. It is implicit when the believer knows not that this particular truth has been revealed. Yet he believes another truth in which this is contained. For instance, a man believes everything contained in the Holy Scriptures, yet he does not know that the Scriptures teach the resurrection of the body. Actual faith may be formal or virtual. It is formal when it means express belief in a truth because it was revealed by God. Thus, a person believes in the incarnation because God revealed it. Virtual faith follows some other act of virtue. A person kneels in prayer. His action is virtually an act of faith in God. Faith is a great gift of God. It makes salvation possible. It is that divine virtue which makes men partakers in the power and knowledge of God. And blessed art thou that hast believed, because those things shall be accomplished that were spoken to thee by the Lord. That's in Luke 1:45. So he's just talking about the necessity, really, of faith. And Jesus wants us to have faith. It says in the Bible many times that we should have faith in God, right? I want to just say one thing. He talks about the infallibility of the church. He's talking about the teachings passed down. The ministers of the church are not infallible, okay? The church has been infiltrated by very negative forces. So in no way am I saying that whatever comes out of the words of the ministers of the church is infallible, because that would be absurd, ridiculous, and contrary to natural law and God's laws, right? Only God is infallible. But he's talking about the truths handed down, revealed by God and handed down through the church, that there is a God, that Jesus was the Son of God, that he resurrected, etc., etc. These are infallible truths. That's what he means here, I think. Because no way is that the ministers, even the Pope. The Pope's not infallible, okay? Protestants always criticize us, and the Pope, when he speaks, is not infallible, okay? This is ridiculous. Catholics do not believe this, so they just keep, accusing us of this. But I want to make that clear. But anyway, this was a little heady, but it's interesting, and he's just talking about, how we have to have faith. And it should be a habit with us that we trust. We trust God, that power that is definitely worthy of trust. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.